Hello, this is Andreas from Nordic Tarot, and I'm here with a love reading for the second half of October. And I just want to mention, as always, that before we get into the readings, that these readings are general and they won't, and really they can't resonate with everyone. So I really hope there is a message for you, but if there is not, I'm sorry. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy your reading. Hey Cancer, Sun, Moon and Rising. This time around, your underlying energy is the moon. And the underlying energy is this kind of energy that is permeating throughout your entire reading, right? It's kind of affecting all the other cards. Now, the moon being in this position, it's kind of the card saying, we don't know how much we want to tell you. Because the moon is about confusion and not being able to see things clearly and being unsure of what you're looking at. You know, just imagine being in a garden, but like if you're in the garden when the sun is out, you can see every blade of grass, and, you know, all the bushes and everything. But then at night, when only the moon is out, all of those things are like, you know, all grey and in shadow, and you can't really tell what's happening. Like everything that was so clear is now very unclear. So there is a lot of things that might seem really unclear, and, you know, so there are a lot of, like, things aren't very clear right now. That's kind of what this comes across as. It's not necessarily that the cards are messing with you and going like, oh, I'm not going to tell you. But it more that this can also be an energy very much related to you right now. If you are indeed unsure of things and you don't have the information and you feel like you can't see things clearly. And I think you do have cards here that speaks to that. But in your problem circumstance, or at the heart of the reading, you have the Five of Cups. The Five of Cups is a card that speaks of loss and grief. It also speaks of being very focused on what is lost and not being able to notice what you still have. Because this card, you know, something happened, something that has caused grief, you know, then perhaps a loss, right? But in the card it shows 3 cups turned over and someone on their knees with their face covered crying because of these 3 cups these 3 cups that are lost. But behind them is the Two of Cups, which of course represent the card Two of Cups. That is a, you know, soulmate connection, 2 people coming together that feel the same about something, but each other, for example. But then this situation, like this loss or this grieving, is crossed by the Nine of Pentacles. And the Nine of Pentacles is about confidence. It's about abundance that you've created around yourself. It's also about a comfort zone. And there is this thing where there is a lot of confidence in this card because this person owns this garden. They've created this garden. They are the master of that garden. But that is not necessarily the case outside of that garden. And that's where the kind of comfort zone comes in. And the Nine of Pentacles is sometimes called the Gilded Cage. And it's this thing where, yes, you are in this, you know, yes, it's a cage, but it's so beautiful and it's, you know, all gold and adorned and, you know, speaks of abundance, but it's still a cage. And that's, again, how the comfort zone and the confidence kind of thing plays into that. But so what is the Nine of Pentacles when it's crossing the Five of Cups here? What does that mean for you? Because like I said, the Five of Cups is about grieving and a loss. So is this... But like, for example, having gone out of your comfort zone and you got burnt by that. Or something knocks your confidence. Is that what this is talking about? It can even be that it can even be that you feel like you've lost something that you created. That you made something happen and then maybe it was taken away. And in the past energy, you have the Knight of Swords. And like the kind of feeling I'm getting at, you've actually, like, you got 3... And in the past, you have the Knight of Swords. And I'm kind of feeling, it feels like this Knight of Swords, like, really stirred things up for better or worse. Because the Knight of Swords would be someone, like, if the Knight of Swords is a person, then this is someone who's an air energy, for example, a Gemini, a Libra, or an Aquarian. This could have been your energy in the past, that things were moving really fast. Maybe you were just, like, legging it in a direction, and it also speaks of kind of not having all the information, because the Knight of Swords fights for the truth, and he just goes out there and kind of gets things done. But he is like the polar opposite of the Knight of Pentacles, right? Because the Knight of Pentacles he follows the plan. He has a plan and he's diligent and he works in a very slow kind of like, let's make sure every step is okay before we move on kind of worker. Whereas the Knight of Swords just runs out. It's like, alright, stop talking, let's just get this done. And, you know, almost feels like they don't necessarily wait for all the information before they go out and just start fighting. But like I said, this can also be someone else, and I feel like if it's someone else, it might have been really disruptive. Because all the knights have a great side, and then a side that can be seen as being less great. Like the Knight of Wands, for example, he comes in and he is, you know, that cool guy with the car, and he's fun, and everyone wants to be around him, but the thing about the Knight of Wands is that he can be unreliable, so he, just as quickly as he came in, he'll just disappear again. And, you know, the Knight of Cups, he is the perfect romantic, and he is the knight in white armor coming to save the damsel in distress, but the thing about him is that he might have trouble living up to all his talk. Like, he's great at talking, and makes things sound great, but does he live up to that? And, like I said, the Knight of Pentacles is a very diligent worker. He's, you know, meticulous in how he gets everything done, but he is very slow. And the Knight of Swords is very fast, and he just runs out there and he, you know, gets things done. But he is also unpredictable. You can't really predict where he's gonna go because he just makes a choice, okay, this is what I'm doing. Which feels very disruptive, if this is indeed someone else. But in your present, what this has led to with the Knight of Swords in the past is this Queen of Wands energy. And I don't know if this is you, if this is someone else. I feel like if this is someone else, they are making you happy. And I think the Queen of Wands kind of energy it feels happy in a way, or it's someone you're like, maybe this is someone you're desiring, maybe this is someone you want to be with. Because the Queen of Wands is, you know, sociable and exciting, and she is passionate, and she, you know, loves having fun, you know, there's that fun fire energy. And with the kind of messages I'm getting through, she kind of looks like a bright spot in all of these other cards. Because a lot of these other energies can be very heavy, but then the Queen of Wands is there kind of infusing some passion into the everyday life, you know? And the only reason I'm not saying that you are the Queen of Wands is because of the situation and what's crossing it, like with the grief there and the kind of, like, it really feels like a knock to your confidence, something like that. And I feel like the Queen of Wands is someone you're dealing with. Like, this is someone close to you. But what this may lead to in the future, like the potential energy of the future, is the Eight of Swords. And the Eight of Swords is a card of someone being stuck in their own head. This is being stuck in your thoughts. Because look at this woman, she's surrounded by these swords. And of course, swords represent our thoughts in the tarot. And I don't know, it kind of just feels like, what is this about? What happens? Is this something that's difficult to move past? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to see if I get some messages here. I mean, it's sitting right next to the moon, which is, like I said, a card of not knowing, of confusion, of not seeing things clearly. And the Eight of Swords is someone who's, like, blindfolded. They don't know how to maneuver because they might get cut by these swords. And it's like, is it something to do with someone from the past? Is something from the past, like, is it to do with the Knight of Swords? Because the Eight of Swords and the Knight of Swords have very different energies. The Knight of Swords sometimes moves too quickly, and the Eight of Swords is being stuck, not moving at all. And I think with the Eight of Swords, one thing to remember is that, and I've been in this kind of energy myself plenty of times, so, you know, you're not alone in this. The thing with the Eight of Swords is that, yes, you are in this circle of swords, you're blindfolded, you don't know what to do, you don't have the information, right? But are there some things that you can do, some more minor things? Yes, maybe you can't fling your arms around because you might get cut by the swords, but can you do some smaller movements, adjust things, maybe bring more clarity into your situation and the way you think? And I'm not going to go to it yet, but one of the Oracle cards is kind of talking about this as well. Now, in your crowning energy, you have the Hierophant, and the Hierophant is about its commitment, its tradition, conformity, rules. And these rules can be societal norms, it can be religious, it can be like what your family wants, It can be about higher education and all these things, but what the Hierophant's talking about is what's conventional, what's regular, what's traditional. It's about how we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to act because of, society or religion or family or like cultural stuff, right? And I'm kind of wondering because, you're Cancer, and Cancer is kind of all about what's home, right? Home is where you feel safe. Like, that's one of the things about Cancer. And then the Hierophant is here talking about kind of this structure and like tradition and things we're used to and things we know. So is it talking about going back to that, going back to things you know? Of course, this doesn't mean like just follow these rules and just be like, if you are someone who does not enjoy conforming, I don't really feel like that's what the Hierophant is saying. But then also in the future, there's this Eight of Swords and someone who doesn't really know where to turn. And this can be like, this could possibly be because they are in unexplored territory, right? I've never been here. I don't know how to act, or I don't know what to do in these situations. I feel like the Hierophant is here more like a reminder that you do have all these, like, all this structure and tradition and how things used to be that you can fall back on. Maybe you can use that to build something new. But also, let's not forget the commitment part of the Hierophant, because the Hierophant can be about marriages as well. But it doesn't, have to skip from being single to getting married, but it's just that kind of commitment, like committing to another person, for example. Now, in your feelings, this just speaks more to you not knowing or not having the information or not seeing things clearly, because you have the Two of Swords, and the Two of Swords is a difficult decision. And this is in your feelings. This is like from the heart, or where you are right now in yourself. And of course, I very much feel like the moon is affecting this as well. And the Two of Swords, it is, like I said, a difficult decision, but it's something we don't see or don't want to see. That we don't have the information to make a decision, or at least we feel like we don't have the information to make a decision, or it's just that there's something we don't want to look at. Like, this is a decision that you don't want to make. Because it might be difficult. Maybe it's super tough to make this decision, and that's completely understandable. But the Two of Swords is also kind of saying that this decision might have to be made at some point. Because there are these two swords involved, and not so much in this deck, but the original Rider-Waite deck that I used to learn the tarot with. It depicts this woman with two swords in either hand, and they're crossed over her chest. And they look really heavy, kind of implying that she won't be able to keep them in this position forever. She's gonna have to put one of them down. She's gonna have to pick one. And that's kind of, that's part of what the Two of Swords is. That, and like I said, I understand with the moon there, and I do feel like the Two of Swords and the Eight of Swords is related as well, of course, because if nothing else, both of these women in the cards are blindfolded, where they just don't have the information, or they don't want to look, or they can't see. And I feel like the Two of Swords, like with the messages I'm getting, kind of, I don't know, like it's about control. But I think as far as the Two of Swords is concerned, the outcome will help you with this, but I'll get to that in a second. And in your outside influence, we have the Star. And the Star is hopefulness, it's wishing, because like the Star is the card for Aquarius, and they are the water bearer, right? And again, in the original Rider-Waite deck, this shows a woman who's pouring water out of her two chalices or jugs or containers, whatever she's carrying, right? And it's this kind of thing that she's giving and she's pouring out, but she also has faith, or, this hopefulness that when she needs something in return, it will be there for her. And of course, this card also asks you, what are you wishing for? What is this hopefulness? What is that about? I feel like there's something you're willing to put a lot of work into as well. It's something you really want, and you work to get it. And in your hopes and fears, the Lovers. So this is a soulmate card. It's a choice. It's a head or heart decision. It's just generally about love. And something else I want to mention about the Nine of Pentacles that's crossing your situation is that this can sometimes be talked about someone who is alone, or at least feels alone. And with the Lovers in your hopes and fears, it just looks like you really want to meet someone, or you want to rekindle something with someone you're already with, perhaps. And I feel like there's this kind of reinvention of yourself in this for some reason. So I feel like this might be that you are with someone and you kind of want to reinvent yourself or the relationship, kind of rekindling that love that you once knew, and maybe it's not there as much anymore and you want a return of that. But of course, like I said, the Lovers is also about the decision, and in your feelings you have the Two of Swords, which is also a decision. Now, the thing about the Lovers and the Two of Swords is that I feel like one is a very simple choice, whereas the other one is a very difficult one. Because the Lovers asks you, choose between head or heart. And it's kind of this thing like, why wouldn't you go with what you love? And it's kind of this thing, and especially when we have the Hierophant here as well. The Hierophant is talked about that like societal, cultural, religious pressure to fit in the norm. Like, this is what we expect. So the Lovers can definitely be like, maybe you love someone outside of that norm. Maybe that's what the heart decision is. But in your head, that's the Hierophant. That's the kind of choice you want to, or feel you should make. But I feel like here in the outcome, like I said when we were talking about the Two of Swords, that things will speed up. You will receive information. You will communicate. Because the Eight of Wands is fast communication. It's information coming in, and this can be text messaging and emails and, instant messaging. It can be that kind of communication because it's happening quickly. And like I said, it can be information just flowing in for you to have a look at, and that will help you with the Two of Swords. That will help you with the Eight of Swords. That's for those two cards. The Eight of Wands is a fantastic kind of energy to get. And I suppose kind of a warning is that you can easily be swept away by how quick this is, like the quickness of this kind of energy. So, it's kind of about being able to take all of that information in, or all that communication when it's happening, being able to parse what's going on, and like actually make good use of this fast energy. But like I said, it really feels like things speed up, and I think if you make great use of this energy, if you use the Eight of Wands energy, I feel like you'd be able to dodge the Eight of Swords, because the Eight of Swords is being stuck and the Ace of Wands is great speed. They are very opposing energies, and they are both in the future. They haven't happened yet. But I'm going to move on to your Oracle cards, and from the Oracle of E, you pulled number 38, Sunshine, Lollipops, and Rainbows Everywhere. You have every reason to skip, to hop, and to leap with joy. Optimism is the only reasonable choice, because everything else is an illusion. Hope is the only thing that matters, because it points to the inevitable. The glass is not only half full, as Psalm 23 says, it runneth over. So that is the star. Like, that's essentially what that is. And it, it's talked about hope and, cups overflowing, and like it's talking about hope and cups overflowing and all these things flow. The star energy coming in, like, what is it you're hoping for? What is it you're wishing? The star is also a card that talks of healing. So I feel like that's some very important things to figure out, because it is in the outside influence position, which means that this is something that's influencing the reading. It's all around the reading, and it's, what's coming in from the outside, but it's something you've not necessarily noticed yet. So kind of figuring that out, what is it you're hoping for? What is it you're wishing? And what is this kind of energy? Then I think you can use that to, for great potential there. And from the Wisdom of the Oracle, the card you pulled is number 20, Imagine. And the essential meanings are turning imagination into manifestation, creative thought, visualization, the power of aligning imagery and feelings, creativity, illusions. So again, this talks to me of like the star and like getting rid of this Two of Swords energy, avoiding the Eight of Swords energy in the future, and it's being creative, letting loose, not necessarily worrying so much about, oh, is this gonna happen? I don't know. More like, well, I want this to happen. This is more about hoping and manifesting and wishing. So I feel like both your Oracle cards very much speak to the Star card. I think that's going to be a major component to how these kind of energies play out. And yeah, you have some cards that can be very scary, like the Moon. But I feel like you have like a great potential here. And like, who is this Queen of Wands? This is someone who can help you. Because the Queen of Wands, she's someone, if you go to her and you're determined to like, this is something I want to do, then she will very passionately back you up and help you. So yeah, like I said, some tough energies, but I also feel like you have like incredible potential here. If you can kind of break out of this Two of Swords way of thinking, right? It just looks like you have a lot of power as well. And I really hope that things go well for you. So that was your reading for mid-October. I really hope that was a message for you, and you know, like I said, these readings are general and it's kind of impossible for it to resonate with everyone. But if it did resonate, or if it didn't resonate and you want some more answers, you have some questions about other like aspects or areas of your life, maybe there's some situation you're in, then you can contact me through my email, which you'll find below in the description box. You know, I'll give you some information about prices and the kind of readings I do. And as always, if you are wondering what kind of decks I've used or anything like that, you'll find most of the information down below in the information box as well. I know I keep changing things up and doing things differently, but I'm trying to find my way of doing it and kind of what suits me, and as well as input from my viewers, of course. But until next time, I hope everything goes well with the messages that were there for you, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.